So thank you everybody for joining today. We're excited to have Uplevel Systems present today. I ran into Uplevel Systems. Robin and I were talking. It was either 2 or 3 years ago at Kaseya Connect, and just always been impressed with what they do and how they do things. So we're excited to have Robin present today. Robin is the Director of Marketing at Uplevel Systems, and she's been there about the same amount of time that I've been here. So it's kind of exciting. So Robin, I'm going to turn it over to you. We thank you very much for joining. This is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be sent to everyone. So Robin, if you would take it away, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So, hey everyone, as Dennis mentioned, my name is Robin Livesay. I'm the Director of Marketing over at Uplevel. We also have Kevin Piersbachy on the phone. You might hear him pop in as well. He sits on our advisory board and as well entrenched in Uplevel as a whole. So he is always a great resource to bring along and help answer questions and kind of facilitate conversation. So you might hear him pop in.
Hello, good to be here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay.
There he is, the one and only. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And as you might have heard me mention just a couple of minutes ago, we're really going to be talking about kind of how COVID was this agent of acceleration in marketplaces. We're not really seeing a change in problems, but we certainly saw it accelerate and kind of transform existing problems in the marketplace. But most importantly, how MSPs can take advantage of that and help to scale their business, provide exceptional value to customers who are currently going through a bit of change, and provide infrastructure that's flexible to fit all of this, right? Because the biggest part about COVID is the need for flexibility, both now as well as in the future, because none of us know what next week looks like, let alone next month. So first things first, we're gonna talk a bit about kind of how Uplevel came into the marketplace. So as Dennis mentioned, when we first launched back in 2015, we were specifically targeting companies under the 25 mark. That's since changed. We are now focused on small businesses with up to 100 employees. So any small office that has 100 employees or less. Now, why we did that? There's really a distinct difference in consumer class infrastructure, as we all know, and enterprise grade equipment. But they really come down to three core needs: technology, time, and expertise. Technology is obviously very robust, very intense as far as feature sets go, and incredibly comprehensive when it comes to enterprise networking equipment. It's also very reliable and often comes with a lot of support resources available. On the other side of that, consumer grade equipment is slightly the opposite. Very, very low in feature set, and often no support at all is available. The other part of that is the time, expertise, and budget, right? Consumer grade equipment, obviously very, very easy to set up and configure, very cheap to acquire. Whereas enterprise grade equipment often requires years of certifications in order to configure, hours of configuration times, costly in terms of technician time, right? More certifications, the higher the cost. And then the equipment itself is incredibly expensive because it's incredibly robust. But these small businesses that fit in the middle, where they don't necessarily need all of the technology that's built into enterprise grade equipment, though they need a few pieces, they certainly don't have the on-site or full-time technicians that have the capability to and certifications to configure everything, and then they most importantly often do not have the capital to purchase equipment outright from the start. So those are really the three main issues that we've moved to tackle with the small business market. Now, previously, most MSPs would go in and configure those systems by conglomerating a bunch of different pieces of equipment together, but that often creates bloat, increases the amount of time, and isn't necessarily holistically the best for the small business. But they certainly don't have the money to come in and acquire enterprise grade equipment. So there needs to be this kind of Goldilocks, if you will, balance between features, time, cost efficiency, simplicity to configure, most importantly, manage from anywhere. But how COVID has changed all of this is small businesses can now be found in everybody's home while they're working from home. And so the issues that used to exist in small mom and pop offices, like dental offices or small accounting and law firms and things of that nature, can now be found amongst any kind of industry with anyone working from home. That goes for large tech companies who have 30,000 employees all working from home now, to the small mom and pop accounting firms, the same guys we were servicing before, who are now letting some of their CPAs work from home as well. All of these people have access to incredibly sensitive information. And so the need to secure all of these home offices, just like they were satellite offices, is growing exponentially. And so this is really where we found that small businesses are now all home offices. And they now need to operate just like a small satellite office would for a large company. And this is a really important point for MSPs. This provides an exponential growth for MSPs, because if you think about previously when you had, one customer with a main office and maybe they had a satellite office, now if they have, so now you have two different infrastructures that you're supporting. Now if they have 9 employees, that's, 11 total physical offices that you've got to support. And additionally, on top of that, MSPs have the possibility of teaming up with internal IT personnel of larger companies to help service all of these individual home offices. Internal IT people don't necessarily have the time and resources to go in and manage each of these home offices right now. And so they're scrambling to find solutions and labor to help. And MSPs are teaming up with these internal IT people to help service all these home solutions. Most importantly, you don't want to turn your accountants, your finance people, your HR directors into part-time IT staff troubleshooting issues. And you certainly don't want to expose the company to more and more security risk, which is exactly what's gone on. The attack profile of large and small companies has exponentially grown with everyone moving home all of a sudden. And worse yet, you have employees now on the same network as non-employees, meaning non-employees like kids, doing schooling from home, other spouses working for other companies. Maybe you have older family members, younger family members, whoever it is in the home, or reaching out to various different websites, and now have the possibility of exposing a corporate network to attacks without even knowing it. And it being from someone that isn't even in the company, because they're both sitting on the same LAN together. And if a child accidentally clicks on a malicious attack, and that malicious attack propagates through the network and gets to the corporate computer, and the corporate computer has credentials into the corporate network, and now all of a sudden the attack is in the corporate network. This growth of the attack facade that we're seeing is so tremendously large, and companies are trying to scramble to secure their resources. So this is really where MSPs have a huge possibility to come in and help secure and reliably connect those consumers back to the main office without any risk, and doing so efficiently and effectively with time and money, right? Because most importantly, you cannot pay for tens of thousands of dollars per office site when you're trying to scale it out. So the work from home offices have little to no security, and hackers have more entry points into the network where family members can inadvertently let them in. So in order to combat all these issues, we have to provide businesses, both large and small businesses or work from home, with technology designed specifically for their needs. I call it the Goldilocks feature set, where you really have only the features that they need and none of the features that they don't, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it reduces the configuration time of techs. And number two, it reduces the overall cost of the equipment. When consumers buy equipment, that have additional features that they don't need, they end up paying for them, right? And it just adds to the cost of the equipment. And so when you're talking about, exponentially expanding their footprint to all these work from home offices, a little cost goes a long way all of a sudden. And so having that Goldilocks feature set, the flexibility of the features of what they need and not paying for what they don't, but still having the high performance enterprise grade equipment, automating configurations so that you can have a faster deployment time and a quicker configuration and management so that you can actually scale it out amongst all these different office locations. And then most importantly, saving customers money as far as the infrastructure goes so that they can actually afford to do this, and saving technician time so that they can actually afford to deploy it as well, right?
So Robin, one question that I think comes up here on the security side, which is one of the most important ones, is, well, my company uses a VPN, and so therefore I'm secure. Can you address kind of why maybe that isn't giving you the level of security you may think it is?
Yeah, so VPNs are only as good as the endpoints connected to them, which has been great thus far. But unfortunately, when you start talking about work from home solutions and having multiple people in the home office together, right? Kids, other family members, a VPN will not protect you from an attack that already exists on your laptop, right? So if you have a computer on the network and it is already infected, or there's ransomware, or there's some sort of hacker that's watching it, right? If you connect over a VPN, the VPN is not going to stop that from happening. And most importantly, the VPN now is exposed to whatever hacker was sitting on that endpoint. So it's only as good as the endpoints connected to it. And if there's nothing preventing attacks from propagating across devices, and most importantly, from unsecure devices like Nest thermostats and Ring doorbells and all of the TVs that are connected into homes these days that are on the internet. There's nothing preventing the attacks from propagating and hackers from using the vulnerabilities in those devices to getting to the laptop. Then there's also nothing preventing that hacker from also using that laptop to get across to the VPN. And so consumers have to be very, very mindful, and companies, that they are only as good as the other devices on the network and what it's exposed to already. And so those VPNs aren't protecting, your laptop from getting a virus because a 5-year-old clicked on an ad accidentally, or a new vulnerability in a Nest thermostat comes out because it wasn't updated, right? All those different things. So that's really where VPNs fall short. Does that make sense, Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Robin.
Okay, awesome. And I forgot to mention, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section. We've got everyone watching them, so we'll answer them along the way. They'll interrupt me, and we'll get to them kind of ongoing, just to make sure everyone's got everything addressed. One poll I did want to pull up is to see how many people, Dennis, if you don't mind pulling up this poll, how many of your customers right now are working from home at the moment? Yeah, perfect. Hopefully everyone can see this poll. How many of your customers are working at home? And just click on any of those 4 options. We'll give it a couple of seconds to let everyone answer, and then we'll present the results.
Is this a percentage, Robin, or just number of people?
Just number of customers. Yeah, so think about the customer as a whole, not necessarily the employees. Wow, so more than 20. So over 60% said there were more than 20 of their customers working from home. Yeah, of course, right? So all these customers working from home, which we would expect. Most states are still under somewhat of a lockdown mode, right? Not everyone is fully lifted, and those that are lifted still have some sort of work from home policy, it sounds like. And so, yeah, makes sense that more than 20 of everybody's customers are currently working from home. So another question, another poll for y'all is, after the restrictions are lifted, what percentage of your customers are planning on implementing some sort of permanent work from home solution? Maybe it's a hybrid where they're doing some sort of rotating desk situation where they only have half or a third of the company coming in every day of the week, and then they rotate days. Maybe they're having, certain positions that work from home all the time. Whatever the situation might be, what percentage of customers are planning to have a work from home policy past state orders lifting? So when everything is kind of back to normal, quote unquote, whatever that means these days, how many of them are planning on continuing to work from home? Yeah, so it sounds like the majority is 25 to 75%. 90% of everyone said between 25 and 75%. So this is certainly a problem that we're really anticipating seeing past a vaccine, past any sort of state lifting of regulations and lockdowns. We certainly anticipate that companies will be much more mindful moving forward of work from home solutions and providing employees the flexibility. And so the need for a flexible solution that'll fit that on additionally is much needed, right? Going forward, this is not some sort of Band-Aid fix. We really need more robust fixed solutions to help us get through, not just now, but actually thrive in the future, right? And so we've done this by addressing those three different areas, right? Technology, budget, and time. The technology side of things, the solution itself is a standardized hardware solution that you can customize with software overlays. So we've standardized all of the solution pieces down to a single gateway that's cloud controlled, cloud monitored, cloud managed. So internal IT people and MSPs alike can manage it from anywhere in the world. They don't necessarily have to be with the gateway. Most importantly, they can pre-configure it, drop ship the gateway, have the customer plug it in, and then do everything else they need remotely. We also address the security piece of that, obviously, with the remote users and protecting those devices, segregating out the LAN, prioritizing traffic so that specific users, right, have priority on the network, and so that employees can facilitate their Zoom calls ahead of the kids watching Netflix in the other room, right, so that the bandwidth is utilized properly and prioritized properly. And then connectivity, easily connecting employees back together, either to resources that they currently have in the office or to each other, whichever it is, right? And then on the time piece of it, we talk about configuration automation and intelligently determining what configurations need to happen automatically. This reduces the deployment times by 2. Like I mentioned, you can deploy the solution from anywhere. And as soon as COVID hit, we had dozens and dozens of customers requesting that we drop ship gateways directly to their homes, right? And then the MSP would have a short call with them to walk them through how to plug in the gateway, which is 4 cables total. Once it's plugged in, they can see the gateway entirely online. They can let the customer go and can do everything they need from there. The simplified UI also allows any tech level to interact with the gateway and configure devices, which dramatically reduces the tech time, number 1, required, and number 2, the tech experience required. So there's no extensive certifications required to operate our equipment. Even though it is enterprise grade equipment, it is very robust and the feature set is fairly full and feature rich. And then all MSPs always have access to our impeccable support team, who always gets rave reviews as far as needing support. And that's really when it matters, right? Whenever things break, you certainly want a partner that's there with you that can help you troubleshoot it and see in the back end what might be going on and help highlight some issues. And so that support team is always there to help MSPs when it matters. And then as far as the cost effective and financial flexibility, that's really one thing that most small businesses are having such heartburn around right now, is that sounds great, but I don't want to spend money on anything. We say we totally get that. That makes sense. So all of our infrastructure can be provided as a service, meaning the hardware comes included for a low monthly subscription cost. There's no commitment required. We will do it on a month-to-month basis if they need. So if they're not sure what their next 6 months looks like, they can always, order a gateway on a month-to-month basis, no contract. And then if anything ever changes, just ship it back and we'll take care of everything. The other thing is they can enable and disable services for continuous flexibility. So they can always go in and enable new services. It changes the billing slightly per month, but there's no upfront cost to it. Or disable them, which reduces the monthly costs, right? And you can go in and change things, and that's going to be especially important moving forward because we really don't know what this might look like in a year. And so having the flexibility in an area where infrastructure has typically been incredibly stagnant once you purchase it, right? There's very little flexibility as far as subscriptions and services go. So our equipment allows you to change over time, which dramatically reduces the capital exposure companies have to infrastructure and lowers the overall cost of ownership for infrastructure, which is primarily a depreciating asset, unfortunately. So when you compare competitors to our equipment, the largest are obviously the upfront cost. As I mentioned, there is a subscription option available. So they can always just subscribe to the equipment and it be included with no upfront cost. There's flexibility both during and after purchasing. For deployments, you've got an integrated feature platform so that techs reduce the amount of time that it takes to configure and things just work. And it also lowers the overall cost of ownership so that companies have more confidence in what they're using and not as much heartburn around the cost associated with it. Now, previously with small businesses, we would always say, we're a perfect solution for companies looking to grow because they can acquire new sites, they can add and expand as they need very rapidly. And we fit into that model as an operating expense, and they get all the security that they need without the financial burden. But now that also applies to distributed employees, right? All of these companies in a work from home solution who are all needing security, internet reliability, right? Prioritization, and connectivity back to the corporate office together. Those same needs are still there. And so those distributed employees are really just an extension of the corporate office, just like a satellite office is. And so protecting those offices the same way that we would protect, the 28 sites of a property management company is what's really needed right now. So when all of this first started, and a couple of success stories for you, when COVID first hit, there was a bit of panic that happened in the marketplace. And so customers immediately started shipping equipment directly to their homes. And it allowed for those companies, specifically an accounting firm that I'll talk about, they have access to incredibly sensitive financial information, right? Arguably some of the most sensitive for both large and small customers of theirs, their clients. And they could not stop working, right? Even though they can't go into the office, they're now having to help facilitate PPP loans and documentation for these small clients of theirs. And so they can't stop working, and they certainly can't risk the possibility of there being a security breach or data getting out that would jeopardize any of their clients, right? We're talking about high net worth individuals and large corporations that use them as an accounting firm. It's not something that could possibly be jeopardized. So by deploying our solution, they immediately were able to secure work from home employees without the capital purchase, right? Because just like most other companies, they're sensitive to capital purchases. And being a services company, right, the more money they spend on capital purchases, the less money they can spend on employees and salaries. So being able to save those capital purchases meant that they were able to reallocate funds, move it into an operating expense, provide them flexibility of if things change, right, how long this is going to last for. but immediately interconnect new work from home offices with the corporate resources, right? All those servers living at the main office back together. Those devices that were sitting in the houses actually automatically connect into the firewall because it uses the same SSID as the corporate network. So only corporate devices are able to get into the corporate network behind the new firewall that was deployed at the homes. And that allowed them to have a very simple deployment, very easy solution for those customers to use. And like I said, it's 4 cables to plug in. So they were drop shipping these gateways directly to their accountants and assistants' homes, having them plug in those 4 cables. And these are not technically savvy people, right? They're accountants. They have a primary focus of numbers, not necessarily technology. And so they were able to plug in all those solutions very easily, have very little issues come up, and the devices automatically connect. And now they act just like they're back in the corporate office, right? The computer recognizes everything. All those map drives are still there. All the access to all the other resources are still there. And it's essentially like they never left the office. Most importantly, they were able to segregate out non-corporate devices. So all of those very insecure devices or users that are not in the corporation that do not need access to those data, keep them out of the corporate office, prioritize the traffic to make sure that those Zoom calls with clients were prioritized over the Netflix in the other room, and then add internet failover to some of those specific employees that lived out in really, really, really rural areas that had very low internet connections to begin with, and then certainly putting a bunch of traffic on it did not help the ISP lines, right? So that was certainly a specific instance where having the flexibility and the financial resources available afforded them. It made it very easy when COVID hit and all those lockdown orders came in for them to easily transition over to work from home almost instantaneously, right? Within a week, they were up and operational just like normal. So if anyone's ever curious, you can always log into our UI on the website and look at what it looks like to actually play around with the features. You'll notice just from the screen, it's incredibly intuitive. Like I mentioned, there's no certifications required, which has made deploying and scaling out these work from home solutions very, very easy and effective. I'm now going to stop for a second, make sure there aren't any questions that I haven't missed yet, and ask another poll. What solutions are customers using right now for solutions for work from home? Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Dennis.
And this is multiple choice.
Yeah, great point.
You can pick more than one.
Yeah, so what solutions are customers using for infrastructure while working at home? Cloud-based applications, RDP, VPN, in-home firewalls, consumer ISP modems. What is everyone using while working from home? So we'll give it just another second to get those answers in.
So let's see what we got here.
Let's see. Yeah, so it sounds like most people are using VPNs, 88%. The next being consumer ISP modems, as we kind of assumed, as well as cloud-based applications, right? So cloud-based applications are great, but again, we've got to protect those endpoints to make sure that there aren't any hackers locally and that are being let in from other unknown devices that are not corporate related. Also, the consumer grade ISP modems are fantastic, except when it comes to security, right? They're also fairly unreliable, right? So we've got to watch out for those and make sure that we're providing companies with reliable solutions, number one, but most importantly, secure solutions, number two, to make sure that they are actually protecting against any sort of attacks or hackers that can come in, right?
So, hey, Robin, we had a chat that came in from Paul that said he actually uses a secure global network that puts the networking connection in the cloud.
Yeah, so that's certainly an option as well. putting network connectivity in the cloud, it certainly doesn't address the local issues, right? The reliability locally, because then you're still at the mercy of the ISP. You also lose visibility into other devices that might be connecting to the LAN as well. So those are great options as well. It just depends on the specific client and kind of what their specific solution is. Those aren't all the solutions in that list, I should mind you. There are certainly other ways of doing things and other solutions out there that could be used in work from home arenas, most definitely. Yes. So we will move forward a bit and say, first of all, I want to open it up to questions right now and kind of jump ahead and see if there are any questions that anyone has about anything that we were talking about. Any sort of COVID related, how is the industry changing questions that I can answer before we kind of get into becoming an Uplevel partner and how to test out our equipment, which is an option.
I was going to jump in and make a comment and question Robin on, the work from home will often result in more questions, more support needs coming up. If one customer now becomes, moves from one or two locations to people working from home, you've got maybe dozens of locations. So for an MSP to get answers to questions that they can't answer directly, I just wanted to stress that, Uplevel has what I would consider real world-class service. It's US based, it's all day long, and it's very easy to get, I think generally, you correct me if I'm wrong, in a matter of minutes, responses to questions or issues that an MSP can't solve itself for one of its customers.
Yeah, definitely. People are often surprised when the first voice they hear is a person answering the phone. And so it's very easy to get in touch with our support team. It takes a matter of minutes, as Kevin mentioned. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when employees start working from home, now all of a sudden you have the possibility of support tickets exponentially increasing, which is why having solutions that are simple to troubleshoot, easy to deploy, easy to manage, so imperative, right? As opposed to very complicated solutions, the time has to be valuable, right? And so with Uplevel really specializing in automating the solutions and simplifying the UI so that anyone can use it and anyone can troubleshoot it. And there are dozens of troubleshooting mechanisms built into the UI already, where we'll actually alert you of any issues prior to them, most often prior to the consumer realizing it. That's huge, right? So MSPs can actually stay on top of it rather than being reactionary, and they can effectively use their time so that, they can manage more and more. Just some snapshots of where we were kind of before COVID hit. We really specialized in allowing MSPs to grow their business when they felt like they had been maxed out. When they felt like their tech time, had kind of reached a maximum, they couldn't afford to hire anyone else, but they didn't have any extra time to take on additional clients. Our solution really stepped in and allowed them to continue to grow their business because it reduced the tech time, right? So they could take on additional projects, additional clients, without sacrificing any of the service by simplifying the solution down and automating so many of those configurations and troubleshooting mechanisms that are built into the gateway. And so by doing that, this COVID situation also expands that, right? And allows MSPs to control and manage far more endpoints, far more consumer-based or home-based offices than they would have ever imagined before in the same amount of time. So though the numbers might be a bit scary initially, that's why finding an exceptional solution that reduces the time and does not add to it is so imperative right now.
So Robin, here's a question. What SMB industries are you seeing bouncing back the quickest? And then which of those are good candidates for Uplevel?
Yeah, so I think especially right now, certainly still being in this middle area, one industry that we really haven't seen falter much at all is, to no surprise, the accounting and finance of the world. They certainly have really been at the forefront of a lot of what's going on, and we all know that attorneys and accountants are often the first people paid, so they really have been doing the best. Grocery stores will obviously in that list, though not as much of a security, not as much as the security risk, I guess would be the best way to put that. So attorneys and accountants in those professional services, insurance is another big one that we've seen really continue to excel, that are perfect candidates for Uplevel, because security needs to be top of mind for all of them, and continue to operate without kind of fault. Doctors' offices are also in that list, with telemedicine becoming so large. Though doctors' offices are a bit interesting because we do expect them really to go back to medical facilities afterwards. However, this resurgence of telemedicine will easily continue, right? And HIPAA regulations, I would assume, are going to start to kind of match that. They'll start to move in that direction and start to mirror what's happening in the world, though it might be a lagging indicator.
I think many industries or businesses in and around the e-commerce area are doing quite well as well, either participating in selling products online or part of the support infrastructure around that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, e-commerce is doing fantastic, and certainly they have the possibility of working from home. And so, all those resources are still out in the open, and can easily be done from anywhere. So yeah, they're also a great resource as well.
So here's a question that's more specific to what you guys are doing. What if customers are working from home but decide to move back to the office later? And also kind of along that same tangent is, what if they decide to kind of go to a hybrid model where they're going to do both?
Yeah, so that's really where the flexibility of our solution model comes into play. The ability to enable or disable services, right? So you can beef up the firewall, you can dress it down a bit as you need, and that change the billing on a monthly basis is huge, right? Because it provides employees the flexibility of moving around in the future, and they're not locked into hardware by purchasing it for the next 3 to 5 years, which is typically what we're talking about. And so, asking a small business right now to try and determine what their solution needs are going to be in 3 to 5 years is very difficult at the moment. How many employees they're going to have, what kind of services they'll need, all those different things. And so the flexibility of changing all of the different services, including acquiring the hardware on a monthly basis, is huge. So customers do not have to sign a contract if they don't feel comfortable with it, and they can always ship back the equipment if need be. So those hybrid models absolutely work in the future, where you maybe have a gateway at key employee locations at their homes, because they are key players. They have access to really intense data that you would never want to get out, and those employees are going to rotate in and out of the house to allow them the flexibility of some sort of hybrid model, right? Where they maybe work from home a couple of days a week, maybe from the office a couple of days a week, or maybe it's just an ever rotating situation, at least in the future.
I got one more question for you. Is there a way for MSPs to test the equipment, to figure out how it works? And then how do they actually get started with you?
Yeah, good question. So you can always check out our UI online. Here is the URL for you, where you can go at any point and play around with it and test it out. That's obviously just the software piece of it. If you want to test out the actual hardware equipment, we do have a demo trial system available to partners. So all you have to do is become an Uplevel partner, which simply takes requesting a partnership agreement from us. We'll send you over pricing as well when you do that, so you can see the full pricing schedule of everything. Sign the e-sign agreement, complete your company information. We do ask that one person attend a 1-hour training session to get started. There is a $100 partnership onboarding fee that we've cut down from $500 for the Taylor Business Group. So make sure to mention you're part of the Taylor Business Group to get that specific bonus. But then you'll receive a 3-month trial period that you can test out the equipment with. And if you deploy a customer in the first 3 months of your partnership, then you can actually keep that demo equipment for your office to use as your NFR.
Yeah, that was the follow-on question. Is there an NFR?
Yeah. So you can always request an NFR if you have at least one customer. And then if you deploy that first customer in 3 months, we'll send you an NFR automatically.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So any other questions out there? I know, Robin, you've done an awesome job. I was excited, like I said at the beginning, to hear the update from y'all, and you guys are doing really well. So I'm excited to see that. And hopefully the people that are on this webinar will understand, see the value of your solution and want to engage with you.
Yeah, we're really excited about kind of what the future holds and how this solution seems to fit very, very well into what's going in the marketplace right now, and how it's changing, right? This is a really ripe time for MSPs, number one, to provide a lot of value to end customers, and number two, scale out their business. So we're really encouraging MSPs to kind of take advantage of what's going on at the moment and look for possibilities to continue to grow, including partnering with internal IT people for additional resources as they grow out these work from home models, and scale out solutions, deploying work from home solutions to their existing customers to provide additional value and security, and just expand their overall footprint. This is a very organic way to do so at the moment. So it's a very exciting time.
So Robin, we don't have any more questions, so we're going to give people back 15 minutes. How's that sound?
That sounds great. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You are more than welcome to reach out to me directly. Here's that special Taylor Business Group offer. Like I said, if you're interested in becoming an Uplevel partner, make sure to mention the Taylor Business Group so that you get that $100 onboarding fee as opposed to the $500 onboarding fee. That's big. And we got a question about, are we going to be recording the webinar? Yes, it was recorded. We will send out, I believe Dennis will be sending out the recording afterwards. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us either at info@uplevelsystems.com, or you can email me directly at Robin, ROBIN, @uplevelsystems.com.
So thank you all for joining us. We are excited to be able to present this and provide this quality solution to you. So again, thank you very much. And we will see you down the road.